It's not a coincidence to me that this happened in the aftermath of restricting those programs and, remember, also demoralizing the intelligence community.
GOP presidential candidate Chris Christie suggesting Intel failures are to blame for the Paris terror attacks. And as we hear, the FBI is tracking at least 48 high-risk ISIS suspects here at home. Gary B says we need to stop cracking down on our intel agencies and give them more power to protect us.
Exactly, Brenda. We need to ramp them up. We're fighting a whole new war here, but it's very similar to other wars we thought were unwinnable. The war against organized crime, the war against the Medellin cartel. All those wars were thought to be, wow, they're too strong, they're too tough, they're too organized. How do we crack organized crime? Through intelligence, through paid informants, through wiretaps. The same way we cracked the Medellin cartel. We didn't crack them by dropping bombs on Colombia. We cracked them by the same kind of paid informants, the same way Israel does it with intelligence. Israel says their last line of defense is the armed guard. They hope to get it before then. So we need to really ramp this up. I understand there's privacy issues, but things like wiretaps and all the other things I talked about, the paid informants, we need to burrow in to what these terrorists are doing and work our way from the inside rather than outside and just, send in drones and stuff like that, because it's not been effective.
Well, Lisa, do you expect that American willingness to accept these curbs on privacy will increase as we see terrorism increasing?
I do absolutely think it will. But look, I think that Governor Christie, there's something broader going on here outside of what he specifically said. The broader problem is we've essentially conceded Syria and Iraq to ISIS, and as a result, they have had the ability to operate, to grow, and to carry out an orchestrated attack like we saw in Paris. That was a multi-pronged military-style attack that they were able to execute because they have the ground in Syria and Iraq to be able to do so. So this is a much broader problem outside of surveillance, outside of intelligence, and we're going to have to take the fight to ISIS in Syria and Iraq, so it's much bigger.
Well, Chuck, isn't this a pretty slippery slope? Once you take away a little bit of privacy, it keeps sliding down. Do we have anything to worry about there?
It was peaceful after 9/11 for a few years, and people started backtracking on this privacy thing because we hadn't seen any real terror attacks. But now you're starting to see them more and more. And as you see more and more terror attacks, what we see in public polling is people being more willing to give up some of their rights to feel like they're more protected. But it is a slippery slope, and you've got to kind of give and take on both sides. But at the end of the day, the more you see things happening in your neighborhood or closer to home, the more people are willing to give up some of their privacy to make sure that they're protected, because it's a new world out there, and you have to evolve with these terrorists. Just like Gary B said, it's a new technology, and we should be using everything we can to make sure that we stay safe.
Jonas?
Any terrorist attack is an intelligence shortfall, so just announcing that isn't much of an insight to the matter. I'm more also with Gary for spying versus military activity too, but it doesn't mean everybody needs their rights stepped on just to catch a few terrorists. I mean, there's intelligent ways to do intelligence, and I don't know if we're doing them necessarily. And an example is we do TSA pre now, right? Like, everybody doesn't have to get their shoes checked for a bomb once they realize you're just not the kind of person who's going to bring a bomb in your shoes. Well, they could theoretically do that with a lot of privacy infringing things. You could identify people in advance who aren't going to buy bomb equipment, and you don't have to go through their emails and their phone call and a lot of other stuff. So there's ways to be a little bit less privacy infringing on everybody. It doesn't mean we don't need cameras in public, but it doesn't mean everybody's phone call needs to be tapped when you have absolutely no chance of doing some of these things.
Well, John, you say use every tool we've got.
Absolutely. Gary B is right. We are at war right now. I was at an event this past Sunday, a WWE Survivor Series event where I do commentary, and that was a supposed threat by ISIS to blow up that building that we were in Atlanta. And the reason it was uncovered, this alleged threat, specifically that building that we were in, was because Anonymous had hacked into their websites. So I want to thank Anonymous for doing that. I felt very safe. Their security was phenomenal, but it's because we knew about this alleged threat. The government needs to be doing things like this. So this is a different world. This is an Al-Qaeda type attacks now that we're getting from ISIS, where they have sleeper cells. They spend years being in the country and then activating and doing something nefarious like this. So you need every tool available to you. We really are at war.
Well, we're very thankful you came out of that safely. Gary V?
Well, we need, as we've proven in every war that we fought, in every new war, we need to adapt and change. We had, before we entered World War II, for example, we had minimal arm. We built up tanks and fighter planes and all that. We just weren't used to it. And thankfully, Roosevelt said, this is how we're going to fight this new world war. We're now in maybe a third world war against the terrorists. We need to find new ways. So the new ways are now not all intelligence, but mostly intelligence, wiretaps, things like that. Get inside these terrorist organizations. We must be willing to adapt and change. Otherwise, we're going to see a Paris attack over here sooner rather than later.
All right, good debate.
But Brenda,
Go ahead, quickly.
Brenda, a big problem that we're seeing is because ISIS has been able to grow to the extent they have, they've been able to infiltrate cities and countries across the world. And so that's the problem, is if they're able to grow and to get bigger, then we're not going to be able to cut down and crack down on all of these incidents happening across the world.
Okay, thank you. Cashing in just over an hour from now. Eric, what do you guys have coming up?
Hi, Brenda. Even though the world is on high terror alert, Canada is planning to take in 25,000 Syrian refugees. Could our northern border make us vulnerable now? Plus, a U.S.-led coalition is finally going after ISIS and its oil supply. What took them so long? Cashing in. See you at 11:30.
Thanks, Eric. We'll be there. But up here first, while we're about to take in more Syrian refugees here, shouldn't their oil-rich neighbors be doing the same there?